We now move to the next speaker. Before we move to the next speaker, I just would like to give a short introduction about his background. The cooperation or the good practice is not only in Africa. In the case of Senegal, we have many other cases around the world. We have here the European cases are very important to study, understand how people can collaborate together in transboundary rivers. Therefore, we have here Dr. Eric. Dr. Eric has a PhD in urban wastewater treatment and postgraduate degree in multidisciplinary engineering. He served as a water policy officer in France, applying and managing national and European regulations. He also implemented and occupied many successful positions in the public sector for national, regional, and local authorities, implementing policy regulations, designing multi-stakeholders strategies, and measure plans. He was engaged in not only in the field of water resources management and environmental protection, but also innovation and research, public-private partnerships, PPP, and European and international cooperation. Since 2017, he is the General Director of the International Office for Water and Secretary General of the International Network of Basin Organizations. Derek, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hani, for this nice introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, thank you very much to our Egyptian hosts for inviting us to the Cairo Water Week. And in my particular case, thank you very much to the European Union for having me here, showcasing different approaches for water cooperation in Europe. If you allow me, I would like to start with a very brief introduction of my organization. The International Office for Water is a non-profit association based in Paris, and our general mission is capacity building for better water management through 4 main activities that you have here on the screen. Training, technical training would be the first one. Second one is about water information systems, and I will show a few examples in this field later on. International assistance, both technical or institutional, and the facilitation of some national, European, or international networks. And to do that, we have different sites in France. We have 140 staff members and a global network of partners. So if you need the details, you will find them in my presentation. But now, if I have to speak on water cooperation in Europe, I have, of course, to start with the world-famous European Water Framework Directive, which is really the legal basis for almost everything that happens in the field of water in Europe. And this WFD is a very good example of political cooperation. To start with a general objective that has been defined among the different EU member states, a very specific and I would say original objective, which is to reach the good status of surface waters, including ecological and chemical quality for surface waters, and chemical and quantitative good status for groundwaters, meaning that we have divided at the European scale all our water resources into water bodies with specific objectives for each of them. And so this objective is implemented through planification cycles. So this is an iterative process, a 6-year process in the case of Europe, and we are right in the middle of these different cycles. And of course, we in Europe apply the IWRM concept, which is a very strong driver for cooperation between different sectors, between different stakeholders. I can mention some of them, the main water uses that you have in mind. Of course, hydropower, it has been mentioned in the case of Senegal River. Industrial uses, this is a very important water use in many European countries. Agriculture, obviously, is also the case in Europe, like in other regions of the world. Leisure uses, this is something important too for European countries. Walking, bathing, fishing, fish farming in some cases, and of course the drinking water purpose. Not forgetting the environmental aspects and the ecosystem services. So these different purposes for water uses are included in the European approach. And just a national example to start with, the example of France, my country, with the French water agencies that are a good example, I believe, of technical, political, and financial cooperation. We have 6 water agencies in France, so the main watersheds, and these water agencies are responsible for water resources conservation and quality improvement of the water bodies, pollution control, public information, and also taxes and subsidies. And along with these 6 water agencies, we have 6 basin committees. We could call them 6 local water parliaments, and they are places for cooperation between different types of stakeholders, state agencies, so the national government and the local representations of this national government, but also the elected local authorities and representatives of the water users. And together, they cooperate inside these basin committees. And financial cooperation is also very important in that case because taxes are collected on the different water uses, and the product of these taxes is used to fund subsidies for projects that improve water resources management. So in Europe, it has been mentioned before, we do have many transboundary water basins or bodies, including groundwater, lakes, or rivers. So transboundary cooperation is a necessity in our continent as well as it is in Africa. We've seen that with the previous speaker. And these transboundary river basin districts, this is their official name for the Water Framework Directive, are very well known. You have here the European map with all these transboundary river basin districts, and they have been also listed, and they constitute a specific case of implementation of the WFD. And I would like to show one example, maybe not the most famous. We won't speak about Rhine River or Danube River, but about the Sava River Basin. Sava River is a sub-basin of the Danube River, around 100,000 square kilometers, the size of the basin. And this is a river shared by different countries. You have the list here on the table. So there was a necessity to cooperate between these different countries to improve the management of water resources in the Sava River Basin. And how did I do that? Through an agreement dating back to 2004 called the Framework Agreement on the Sava River Basin with the some member countries, and a very large scope of cooperation around water management and navigation in this specific case. And of course, they have to coordinate with the bigger Danube River Commission. So inside the protocol of this FASRB, you have rules for navigation, for pollution prevention, for flood protection, and for sediment management. And the cooperation through the Sava River is organized through this. This is not a very simple life, as you can see here, but of course the member countries are driving the implementation of this convention, but there is also a larger cooperation with all the different types of parties. That's why the meeting of the parties is so important, and this very week the Sava River Basin is organizing its meeting of the parties. And so they discuss about the big principles, but also about the implementation rules of these agreements. And this is a very general process between the countries and the different stakeholders inside the countries. And they can do that because they share their data. They share a hydrological and meteo data system, which is very important for all the countries of the Sava River Basin, but also for all the different stakeholders to know what is happening concretely in the basin. And this is something really important. I will come back to that later. Cooperation is also possible between EU member states and non-EU member states. Here is the other example of a very important EU-funded project called UE plus East, UE for European Union Water Initiative. So this project involves two member states of the EU, Austria and France, but also the 6 non-EU member countries that we have the list here on the screen. And these countries have signed cooperation agreements with the EU, and so they are moving towards the implementation of the principles of the Water Framework Directive. And this is possible for them to cooperate in this implementation. And here is the case of the Kura River Basin that has been briefly mentioned also by Dr. Hani in a few minutes ago. So this is a cooperation between two countries, Azerbaijan and Georgia in that case. And the work that is currently under implementation is to finalize a bilateral agreement between the two countries on the case of this Kura River with representatives of the different ministries of the two countries. And so we are just in the middle of this process, and this is very interesting cooperation where the principles of the EU WFD can be step by step applied, implemented to other countries. To do, to have successful cooperation implementations, I strongly believe that water information systems are a key step. You cannot manage what you don't know. You cannot cooperate if you don't agree on the data, on the information. That's the reason why, also at the European scale, we do have a water information system. This is a shared information system at the European scale called WISE, Water Information System for Europe. Oh, the mic lower, sorry. So WISE, and it is shared by all the different EU member countries, and it gives information about the different river basins at European scale, including, of course, the transboundary river basins. So this is very important to have these shared data bases, because once again, the partners for cooperation need to agree on the information that is available, that is on the table to engage in the debates. Another more technical example is about a specific legal basis in Europe about the urban wastewater treatment. We have a directive too in this field, and this is very important for the countries and for the stakeholders inside the countries, so to share information about the sources of pollutions, about the problems that need to be dealt with. And again, in this case, there is a shared water information system dedicated to the data necessary for the implementation of this urban wastewater treatment directive. That's the reason why we insist very much on this cooperation for water information systems. And here is an abstract or a very short presentation of a handbook that we have published last year during the World Water Forum in Brasilia about water information systems. And there is a brief description of the process that is necessary to go through if you want to build a cooperative water information system. Of course, you need data, so you need to produce the data first, but usually the key aspect is not so much to produce the data, but really to share the data, and especially at the transboundary scale, there are a lot of concerns from the countries in terms of sovereignty that has been mentioned before. That makes this topic of data sharing not so easy. But we have a lot of good examples now at the global scale to present how it can be implemented. So this is a free book. You can have it on our internet site. Another aspect of cooperation at the open scale, and I would like to mention it because I believe that it could be extended at a much more global scale. It's what we call peer-to-peer projects. So the exchange of experts from one transboundary basin to another one, for example, and you can have one expert from one basin reviewing the practices of the other basin. This is a very interesting and fruitful process that we've been implementing at the European scale for many years now. And here is a very brief map of the different basins so including national basins where these practices have been implemented, and I would recommend or encourage this practice again to be extended at broader scales. Another area of cooperation which is rather important in Europe is the involvement of the different types of stakeholders and the public at large. This is also something that is included in our legal basis in the Water Framework Directive with information and consultation processes that have to be ensured. This is part of the legal process, and also more active participation that is very much encouraged because we believe that public participation is something that can help the robustness of the measures, and all interested parties can be part of these processes. And so let's go to another example of transboundary basin. This is the Scheldt Commission. So it is a river basin shared by France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. And they have been particularly involved in public participation processes, which is usually a national or regional competence, but they decided to organize that at the transboundary scale. And as you can see, it started in 2003, so they have quite a long history in this process. And they've decided to invite non-governmental observers to their technical work meetings. So representatives from the civil society were invited to the discussions for the implementation of their the transboundary decisions. And particularly, they decided to create the Parliament of the Young Citizens of the Scheldt. It's a history done for more than 10 years now, as you can see here. And this youth parliament has been involved really in the decision making processes for the Scheldt River Basin with 20 young members of this parliament. And the general idea is really to develop the citizenship, the water citizenship, and the shared identity at the basin scale, and to promote this shared environmental awareness through educational projects, meeting decision makers, and through involvement of youth in concrete projects. And this is also something very important to involve the public at large, and especially the youth. This is, I believe, a very interesting area for cooperation. Very briefly now, cooperation can also happen between Europe and other continents. Here is the case of a EU-funded project called Afri-Alliance. This is about cooperation in the field of innovation and research. So different European and African research or innovation organizations cooperate through these different technical groups to detect and to define the needs for innovation in the very specific situations of African countries or have African climate. You can find every information you need on this project. And to conclude my presentation, I would like to mention now the cooperation at the global scale between different transboundary basin organizations. The General Secretary of the International Network of Basin Organizations, around 200 members at the global scale, and have here on the map the regional networks that are working every day. There is a specific European network that is very active with the organization of a yearly conference, and you can find this. And what is more interesting maybe for you today is the production of these handbooks on very specific issues related to transboundary cooperations. All these books are free and available on our internet site, and please pay attention to that, and I'm sure the information can be useful for you. And we just had our 11th General Assembly 2 weeks ago in Marrakesh, and our work program of INPO through these 7 axes, as you can see, is very much focused on cooperation in many different fields. So if you're interested, please feel free to ask me or to see the relevant information on the internet site. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eric, for this very interesting set of examples for collaboration between countries. It shows us that cooperation is possible when the intention and the political will and the support of the technical people is there.